Jaylen Carter thought he was being punished for a haircut. But what started as a school suspension quickly unraveled into something far more dangerous. A secret file, a dead father, and a system designed to ruin lives like his. What Jaylen uncovered would shock the nation and turn him from a high school reject into a symbol of justice. It was January 12th. Milwaukee Prep's hallways buzzed with whispers of winter break until Jaylen Carter walked into them wearing a tribute. He had just lost his grandmother, Gloria, 3 days earlier. She had raised him, prayed with him, told him, "Never be ashamed of who you are." With a fresh fade cut that morning, Jaylen shaved a small G near his temple, a symbol of love and loss. But Principal Gerald Mathers, a man known among students as both strict and selective, saw nothing of family or grief. He saw a threat. "That haircut is gang-affiliated," he told Jaylen. Jaylen, stunned, replied, "No, sir, it's for my grandmother." But Mathers stared in silence, then said, "It doesn't matter. You're suspended indefinitely. Security will escort you out now." Within minutes, 2 school security officers led Jaylen through empty halls, past gasps of disbelief. No hearings, no parent call, no explanation. Just a student led away, labeled dangerous. Jaylen exited into the cold, the front doors locking behind him. He sat on the steps as it snowed lightly. His mother, Tasha, was working a double shift at the hospital. She didn't see his calls. Eventually, after waiting for close to 5 hours, shivering from the cold and shock, his mother finally saw his text messages and drove straight to the school. The sight of Jaylen, her son, in the cold broke her as he ran into her warm embrace. She gently tapped his back and kept reassuring him that it's going to be okay as he struggled to narrate the occurrence to her amidst tears and pain. The drive home was quiet as they sat in silence, each buried in their thoughts as their minds were clouded with anger and frustration. By evening, the world had changed. Everything he had built, his grades, his leadership, his future, felt gone. Olivia Banks, a quiet classmate of Jaylen's, had watched him being escorted out. Where many recorded for gossip, she recorded this for something bigger. She uploaded the video that night, no edits, no commentary. By morning, the clip had 1.4 million views. People posted comments. "This is why we protest. Fire the principal. I've been there, stay strong." Celebrities reposted. Talk shows called. But Milton Prep? They doubled down. The district said they'd enforced grooming rules fairly. They offered Jaylen a transfer, but Tasha refused. She wanted justice for how they treated her boy. Jaylen shrunk behind closed doors. He barely ate. He barely spoke. He started writing letters to Gloria, but never sent them, wishing she was here for him to speak to her and get her wise, comforting words. He felt pained as the world around him seemed blur. The future he always dreams of and speaks to his mother and Gloria about now feels non-existent. Jaylen has been home for 3 weeks now. Tasha have had to take days off work in order to be there for him. She knew he needed her now more than ever. They spent days sending mails, S&D, replying to blogs and journalists reaching out to get the full story, hoping someone will pick up the case as they could not afford to do so alone. However, they were only milking them for selfish purposes. Just when they were about giving up hope, that's when the world stopped being silent and someone decided to speak up. 3 weeks passed before a black Tesla pulled into the front lot of Milton Prep, turning heads. Out stepped Dr. Amina Brooks, Harvard-trained, civil rights attorney, and advisor to the Department of Education. By morning, she was seated across from Mathers in his office. "I'm here about Jaylen Carter," she said, and slammed a binder on his desk. Mathers tried to brush it off. "We followed procedure. He violated grooming policy." She replied, "This isn't about grooming. It's about discrimination. The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights is watching." He demanded, "Why do you care?" "I care," she said, "because I was expelled from this very school 2 decades ago for wearing braids. I was friends with Tasha Carter, Jaylen's mother, back then." On Edmond Street that night, Dr. Brooks showed Jaylen and his mother a 1999 photo. 2 girls, herself and Tasha, smiling outside Milton Prep. Together, they remembered a time when prejudice was just as sharp, only now it was pointing at Jaylen. "You stood up for me," Dr. Brooks told Tasha. "Now I'm standing up for your son." A few days later, a rough piece of torn notebook paper was slipped into Jaylen's locker. It read 2 words, "Watch your back." He hadn't told anyone. No one else knew he'd been expelled without due process. That night, he followed instructions to meet janitor Otis McGill behind the theater. The halls were dark and empty. Otis was waiting, his mop beside him. He pulled out an aged folder of papers. Inside were internal emails, surveillance screenshots, memos about 6 black boys expelled over the past 5 years, all labeled gang-affiliated. One dated October 2018 showed Principal Mathers shaking hands with Jaylen's late father, Robert Carter, alongside a hidden line. Scrub records. Otis's voice broke. Your dad knew something, he tried to expose it. Now I think he was silenced. Jaylen stared at the photos. A few moments later, police sirens wailed in the distance. Otis's eyes sharpened. They know I talked. Run. Be safe. Jaylen ran, the papers clutched tight. He barely managed to escape the police by hiding under a parked car as he watched Otis being handcuffed away, but only looked concerned for him and later satisfied as they drove away without catching Jaylen. At home, Jaylen dropped the folder onto his desk and found a USB tucked inside. He plugged it into the laptop. A recording played. It was Robert Carter's voice, a calm, determined tone. They're profiling black boys. They turn children into cash. Principal Mathers and his group, they run it through donations, expulsion grants, private contracts. Then, a voice Jaylen recognized. Mrs. Raymond, his counselor. You'll keep your mouth shut, Mr. Carter. Think of your son. Jaylen closed his eyes, his heart pounding. The woman who told him to blend and had betrayed them both. For a moment he sat in that light, the laptop's glow highlighting tears on his face. The next day, Dr. Brooks gathered Jaylen, Olivia, and Otis. She brought in Naima Rodriguez, a legendary civil rights lawyer prepared to take the case pro bono. Jaylen met Michael Reed, the finance insider. Michael handed over bank statements showing grant money funneled away from classrooms and into private disciplinary contracts. He handed over another USB, Robert's final confession. Dr. Brooks laid out their plan. Minutes from meetings, voice recordings, video evidence, financial proofs, all to be compiled into a documentary titled The Pipeline Files. They would drop it at midnight. Jaylen looked around the small living room. He felt fear, but more than that, purpose. He whispered, "We're not just making it public. We're holding them accountable." At 11:53 p.m., Olivia hovered over an upload screen. 5 seconds, she said. 3, 2, 1. Click. The video went live. The title read, The Pipeline Files, Profiting Off Expulsions. By 11:07 p.m., the views ticked upward. By breakfast, the world had watched. Twitter exploded. Anchors replayed clips of the 6 expelled boys, statements from parents, financial documents flashing across the screen. Milton Prep's board members scrambled. Principal Mathers refused interviews. A local pastor held prayers for Jaylen's family that same morning. Late the next day, Jaylen received a text from an unregistered number. Stop now or suffer the consequences. Tasha cried at night, asking if they were safe, and worried for the future of Jaylen. She tried to convince Brooks to drop the case, but it was already too late. She feared that they would do to Jaylen what they did to her husband, Jaylen's father. Jaylen held his phone the whole evening, sleeping in the clothes he'd worn earlier. The dossier was safe on 6 encrypted drives hidden around the house and in the hearts of the team who refused to back down. Jaylen Carter believed he'd exposed the system when the pipeline files dropped, but nothing could have prepared him for the courtroom or for the confession his father left behind, revealing that Milton Prep's principal didn't just destroy students' futures. He killed his own son. Tonight, you'll witness Jaylen's confrontation with the Covenant, the secret syndicate behind everything, including his father's murder. The morning of the hearing arrives. Jaylen steps into the U.S. District Courthouse, rows of seats packed with supporters, protesters holding signs with his name. Dr. Brooks and Naima flank him. Michael sits with documents and bank evidence. Olivia stands by with a tablet loaded with footage. Opposite them, a lineup of defense lawyers representing Mathers, Mrs. Raymond, and the expelled student profiteers. The U.S. attorney calls the case. Naima Rodriguez. Your Honor, today we prove how a secret network profited by removing promising black students. They called it discipline. They called it protocol. But tonight, we call it conspiracy. Jaylen takes a seat in the witness box. He glances at family, past cameras. He steadies himself. Jaylen, describe what happened on January 12th. Naima said. Jaylen with a nod replied. I walked in with a haircut to honor my grandmother. The principal said it was gang-affiliated. Security led me out. In 2 hours, I lost my education and a piece of myself. He holds back tears. She continues. Naima, and you saw evidence later? He places the USB tablets and screenshots on the table. Jaylen, emails, surveillance, witness testimony, everything pointing to a deliberate pattern. Naima, 6 expelled black students. Michael, my documents show grants redirected to private firms linked to the expulsions. Every case was profitable. The court is darkened. Olivia plays clips. Clip 1, news footage of protests outside Milton Prep. Clip 2, parents of expelled black boys recounting lost opportunities. Clip 3, Otis on camera. Your dad tried to stop it, but they silenced him. The courtroom gasps. Journalists scramble for their notes. Supporters weep. Principal Mathers takes the stand. Defense lawyer. Is there any evidence you targeted black students or profited? Mathers coldly. All procedures were followed. Expulsions were due to violent or threatening behavior. The financials are irrelevant. They were unrelated. Naima, Your Honor, may I approach? The judge nods. She presents a document, Principal Mathers' personal ledger, showing payments from covenant-linked firms for targeted expulsions, including Jaylen's scheduled expulsion date. Mathers swallows. His hands tremble. He looks away. Outside the courtroom corridor, Otis slips Jaylen a sealed envelope. Jaylen opens it, a USB labeled dat_final_confession.mp4. He waits for the prosecutor's break to plug it into an encrypted court laptop. Judge allows video to be shown for relevance to ongoing conspiracy. On screen, Robert Carter, calm and firm. Robert on screen. They called us collateral damage. They called it discipline. But it was bigger. There was a syndicate, a group known as the Covenant. Our expulsion system was a revenue machine. But I couldn't just watch kids be profiled and labeled. I left. I spoke. They came for me. Pause. Jaylen watches his father's face, heard for the first time. Robert. In 2019, they activated Operation Ghost. My car crashed. IT wasn't an accident. Covenant operatives tampered with my brakes. My death was documented as crash-related, but I recorded the confession before they caught me. He continues. Principal Mathers, Mrs. Raymond, district officials, and private contractors, they all signed off orders. Gasps echo throughout the courtroom. Jaylen drops to his knees, tears flow visibly. Tasha rushed to him, and they both cried together in the courtroom. The judge calls a recess. Cameras click. Supporters rush to comfort him. The tension clears. Brooks, amidst drops of tears, walked over to Tasha and Jaylen and gently helped them to their seat. Jaylen had stopped crying now and was consoling his mother. Nothing could have prepared them for this pain. The pain of his father's death had come back fresh in their minds again, as they couldn't help but imagine the pain he went through. The judge walks in and motions Naima to proceed. Otis gives emotional on-the-spot testimony. Robert died trying to protect Jaylen and countless other kids. The district's lead counsel falters. Naima goes on. Your Honor, we present clear evidence. The Covenant's financial documents, Robert's confession, real harm done. We ask for justice not just for one boy, but for every student treated as profit. The jury is called. Foreperson, we find the defendants, long pause, guilty on all counts of civil rights violations and conspiracy. The room erupts. Jaylen cries. Tasha hugs Dr. Brooks. Mathers is handcuffed. Remorse on his face. 6 months later, the Carter Reform Act passes, banning expulsions for nonviolent behavior, eliminating racial profiling, freezing expulsion-based funding. Federal arrests. Mathers, Raymond, finance board members. Covenant contractors investigated, assets seized. Jaylen stands on Capitol steps, medal in hand. My father said truth doesn't die, it gets passed down. This is for him. For every child who was silenced. He meets Dr. Brooks. They clasp hands, no more words needed. Milton Prep unveils a statue, Robert Carter, standing next to Jaylen, plaque reading. He died for truth. His son made it legacy. Jaylen visits at dusk, standing alone, eyes filled with silent gratitude. He pulls out his phone and watches the final minute of his father's confession, never broadcast. Robert in a soft whisper. Jaylen, if you're hearing this, I wasn't just protecting you. I was protecting truth. You're my strength. You're still more than enough.